Hill in the gun with Hill to his right. Play action to the right. Steps up, throws over the middle. He's got Thornton. Caught it! Junior Thornton. Split. 6. Touchdown. Midway.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Hill, right side, finds a seam. Hill, 20. Hill, 10. Hill, touchdown. Midway, no flags. Midway takes the lead by more than one score. And how about the Big Uglies inside?
Now, here's David Smoak.
It is week number 10 of the Texas high school football season. David Smoak with you. Jacob Wilson runs our mothership as our director and producer and graphics and all of that. Man, I'm excited about today and this week's show. And again, there's 2 weeks left in the regular season. 2 weeks left. Some teams have clinched the playoffs. Some teams have clinched whatever seed they might be. And then again, there's a bunch that has to be decided, in fact, this weekend. As we do, to give you like a synopsis, first of all, our sponsors, every one of them, we appreciate all of them and what they do for this show every single week. We appreciate you who watch. And I think you hopefully love this show today on many reasons. One, we're going to go for many reasons. We're going to look back at the best wins. We're going to look at ahead to the best games this week. We're going to feature one of those games. In fact, two powerhouses in Texas and Dallas, Desoto and Duncanville with Claude Mathis and also Reggie Samples joining us today. A couple of some individual performances, including in a minute a dramatic ending to one of the best games in Texas last week. And then also we'll look ahead, as I mentioned, to next week or this weekend. But we'll also look at a few graphics. One, the all-time career wins among head coaches currently, and then also something about mascots in the state of Texas. And there's about 2 or 3 young men and running backs who play college football in Texas and what they did this past weekend. Let's look at the games, the best wins last week. We're going to start with this one. China Spring was beating Stephenville and pretty much dictated that game all the way through around the third quarter. Then here comes Stephenville, 2 defending state champions. You knew Sterling Doty and Stephenville, the Yellow Jackets, and also Tyler Beatty and China Spring, the Cougars. This was going to be a slugfest. Initially, China Spring kind of had it going. And then here comes Stephenville. And they take the lead on a gutsy two-point conversion attempt, make it. Stephenville with less than a minute to go, 36-35. They'd come all the way back. And then China Spring, with not much time left, McCullum, the quarterback, leads him down the field. And this young man, Thomas Barr, the kicker from China Spring, this is a 42-yard field goal attempt. Watch how easily it clears through the uprights and the goalpost. Thomas Barr, who last year was huge for them in their state championship run. Congratulations to China Spring. A great game, and you might see China Spring and Stephenville perhaps meet again down the road out of that same district in, of course, the state playoffs. Refugio and Shiner both had a couple of hickeys. Both had a hickey early in the year. They were on a collision course. Same thing. Great programs. Refugio beat Shiner 38-27. In 2A, Timpson, Kerry Thurwanger and Timpson. Terry Bussey, their unbelievable player who does everything for them. A nice win. Joaquin with Coach Lawson. They're good too, but Timpson won at 25-22. Aledo, they lost that opening game to Parish Episcopal, and kind of a little bit for them. Anytime Aledo loses, you're like, wow. They beat Denton Ryan 35-21. What is that district winning streak? We focused on it last week. The best 110 in a row in district play. 2 state champions, Franklin and Lorena. They met last year in non-district. Now they're a part of the same Class 3A Division I district. Franklin 49-35. Bryson Washington, a Baylor commit, had, 26 carries or 29 carries for 302 yards and 6 touchdowns. He was named the Built Ford Tough Texas High School Player of the Week in Class 3A. West beat Grandview Easton had 100. Yeah, let's see. I got to make sure I get his last name correctly because it was an amazing. Easton Paxton from West had 2 interceptions, ran one back 100 yards, 4 tackles, a pass knocked down, an 86-yard touchdown catch in that game as West beat Grandview 38-21. I don't know about you. I watched that game Thursday night. Denton Guyer just humiliated Allen. Lee Wigginton's got to get that thing back around. They were so dominant, so long, but they're slipping, and that's why there's a coaching change. And Lee Wigginton will get that thing turned back around at some point. But right now, Reed Heim and Guyer, Jackson Arnold, their quarterback was huge. Bowen, who's committed to Notre Dame, Arnold committed to Oklahoma. They were monstrous. Jasper beat West Orange Stark 34-14. West Orange Stark, their record is not very good, but they have played some good people. But they always have played good people and usually won those games. And Midlothian saw this one. Lake Belton with what Brian Cope is doing. Hell of a game here, 39-37. Midlothian wins that game. Those are just some of the games from last week. We'll look at this week at the end of today's podcast. Also, here are the we've done all-time winningest coaches in Texas history with some coaches who have unfortunately moved on, no longer with us, or have retired for many years. Here is the list of the all-time winningest coaches active in Texas high school football, 1 through 10. Great job by Jacob. So there's 3 columns, 1 through 10, all-time winningest active coaches. The first column to the right of that is their overall, how many wins they have in order. And then to the right of that is what is their record at the specific school they're at now. Like Randy Allen, 432 all-time wins. And then look what his record at Highland Park, 279-33, 89% win percentage is nuts. You go down the list. Faith at Albany, he keeps rolling along over 300. We're going to hear from Reggie Samples at Duncanville, 314, 84-17 at Duncanville. Mike Wheeler, Larry Hill at Smithson Valley. Jerry Bomar, who came back and is now coaching at Groesbeck. They had a quarterback injury with Alan Lewis, so they've kind of slipped a little bit. But Jerry Bomar there. Look at Jason Herring's all-time record. But look at to the right, his record at Refugio, 205, 20, and none, including that win they had against Shiner. Tim Buchanan, who's unbelievable, retired, came back to Aledo, what he's done. Jimmy Thompson, I knew Jimmy when he was a coach at Crockett. He's been around a couple other places. Jimmy Thompson, he was at Garrison, won a state championship at Garrison, then did well at Crockett. Now he's at Dawson. He's number 9 currently. He's only been at Dawson for a couple of years. And Kirchhoff at Falls City has had a great run at number 10. But look at 59, and 59 looks like it's way down the list. It's only because Claude Mathis at Desoto hasn't coached for very long. He is 152-56, climbing that chart, 112-26, 81% winning percentage at Desoto. And we'll hear from Reggie Samples and Claude Mathis here on today's show. This is the statewide high school football podcast powered by 365 Sports and Smoaky.com. Next, Claude Mathis of Desoto, Reggie Samples of Duncanville. Hope you enjoyed today's show.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB Your Bank for Life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Without question, to me, there's some games out there based on the index ratings of Pigskin Prep and others that are elite, but I don't know how you can get better than Duncanville and DeSoto coming up on Friday night in an amazing game, district championship game, two teams that might, of course, go really and probably will go very deep into the playoffs. And a good friend of mine, Claude Mathis of Desoto, joins us now on 365 Sports and the Statewide Podcast. How you been, my friend?
Doing great, man. It's been doing well, man. It's great to be on your show. I'm great talking to you again. I haven't seen you in a minute, but it's always a pleasure to be on your show.
You too, buddy. And of course, I put up a list of the current winningest coaches in Texas based on all-time wins and then also percentages. And you're in that mix. You've won, I think, 81% of your games at DeSoto. You had a nice run at Marshall for a couple of years and then came back home. Do you keep up at all? Is that something coaches keep up with when it comes to how many wins you have or anything other than you want to win, but do you keep up with it?
No, I don't. I usually keep up with it at the very end of the year when Dave Campbell Magazine and other magazines were asking me to my record and my total record of wins and all that good stuff like that. So that's when I know. Other than that, I don't know and I don't keep track with them. I'm too busy trying to win games and keep a job.
You are beating people up. I know you had the game earlier this year with St. Francis out of Maryland, but you're just scoring a ton of points. Is this one of your more explosive offensive teams?
Well, they're definitely up there in the top 5 right now. That's for sure. I think our preseason schedule has helped us out tremendously, and I think our kids on our offense are finally gelling. We had some young kids that are beginning to gel, but at first our offensive line was beat up so bad, and we're just now be able to get those guys back. So now we're able to score some points. So yeah, we're definitely gelling right now.
How much did you learn, even though you guys don't get smacked much, but that St. Francis I mentioned out of Maryland got beat up pretty good in that game?
Learned a lot, and that's why I want to schedule a difficult preseason schedule in order to have us ready for district play and also to have us ready for the playoffs. But that St. Francis game right there, man, that's one of the better teams I've ever seen in my life. But they have prepared us, and they made us a lot better than what we are now. So kudos to those guys, and kudos to our kids for rebounding and continuing to play hard right now. But I learned a lot from playing those guys. You
have played anybody, anywhere, anytime, as long as I've known you. But two teams out of the state that you opened up the year with, winning one, and then I mentioned the one about St. Francis. Claude, there are great teams around the country. There's no question about it. You've seen them. You've faced them. You know that. But is it still the separation with Texas that Texas has more of them and on occasion might get picked off by St. Bosco or someone like that or St. Francis?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a prep school, the way I looked at it. I mean, you playing 18, 19, 20 years olds, and I didn't know that at the time when we scheduled those guys. But those private schools that can put together a team of guys that can go around and choose from is a little bit different than playing in public school. So, that's the difference. I'm just imagining me and us in Duncanville combining schools and joining around and playing everybody across the nation. We'd be unbeatable. I mean, we definitely would be unbeatable. But I think that's the biggest difference right there. But when you have a solid team like we thought we had, which we do, I still think we can play with anybody.
All right, so Duncanville this week, and you had a great start when you were there the first time at DeSoto and beating them, and then Reggie came in, and of course we know his history. We know your history, and they've had you the last, I think, 3 or 4 years. Tell me what the keys are to this Friday's game.
Well, I think the weather's going to play a factor, so definitely we have to make sure that we do not turn the ball over. I think that's going to be very important for us. I think special teams are going to be important as well. I think they've beat us the last couple of years in that area right there, and that has really put us in the behind the chain a little bit. And they've started actually with great field position from their special teams. So not turning the ball over because of the weather this weekend and playing great special teams is going to be huge in physicality. Because from what I'm hearing, we don't wear our hard hats. We wear lingerie. So we just want to make sure that we don't wear no lingerie this Friday.
Whoa! What?
Yeah. So we're just
that,
making sure.
Where did that come from?
Little birdie told me. This little birdie told me. That's all.
Okay, I have to ask you this question. Did a birdie tell you that to feed your team, or did you actually?
It's facts.
You always have had kind of. Okay, go ahead.
I said no. We're just gonna show up. We're just gonna show up, play some good football. I mean, it's just what it is, and everybody's gonna be looking at this game right here because actually it comes down to the district title, and I think we both know that. And I respect Reginald, and he respects me, and our teams are gonna. It's what it comes down to. This is what Texas high school football is about. It really is.
Absolutely.
This Friday night, This is what it's about, and I'm gonna enjoy it. I really am.
So, you mentioned the offensive line, and you had some issues with that earlier. Has that been corrected?
Injuries killed us, and we're trying to rebound from it right now. We lost our starting tackle for sure. We're just not getting back our right guard just not getting him back this week. So we're going to be full except for our right tackle. But we've been having guys without. We've been playing without him for the last 5 weeks anyway. So, but I think we're finally gelling, and that's been a big issue. I mean, obviously the offensive line has been a big issue. We're finally getting it back together. So yeah, we should be back to full strength and one of our other guys back.
I know one of your players, and he's a dynamic player, Texas commit. Desoto has commitments to major schools all the time. But Trey Wisner, I saw him when he was a young pup, basically, at Conley, and he has dynamic speed. I mean, he has elite speed. When he got into space, it was over. How much has he helped you? I know you have a lot of players that are fantastic, but how much has Trey kind of fit into it all?
You know what? I think at the beginning he was feeling his way out because the speed of the game had changed, and he didn't know how many great athletes were on one field at one time. And he has learned, and spring ball, having to go through spring ball and then going through this summer and going through our season right now has really helped him out. He has brought a big aspiration to our football team. He's a bundle of joy. I can tell you that he's never down. He's always up. He's always playing around. But he just brings another dynamic to our team because you can't guard him one-on-one, and you're gonna have to camp for him every single play he's on the field. So that's like one kid I'm glad he's able to come to Desoto, and we're glad to have him.
Yeah, he was. I mean, you got him in space on a jet sweep or anywhere. It was over. I mean, it was absolutely over. Claude, you've had success. You have also been someone that is just constantly pushing, and coaches all across the state do that. What fuels your fire? How did coaching get into your blood?
Well, a man named Trent Gregory and his wife. Coach Gregory was our defensive ends coach at Bartlett, and I was playing high school there, and his wife was a special ed teacher. So that's how I got involved in coaching and teaching special ed, because of those two right there. And, I just loved it from there. So when you have great high school coaches like him and Coach Cron and Coach Jones that coached me in high school, man, it just fueled me. And I just always wanted to make a difference with special ed kids. So I got involved in coaching and teaching, and I loved it.
How much, and my brother lives with an autistic partner. He has a young man that he takes care of, is the best way to put that. And it's a joy to him. His name is Mike. And it's like, that's his son. That's his life, no matter how much family, of course, means to him as well. Me as a brother, the other two brothers as well. Is that really, I know, watching a team grow up, watching a player get it, watching the lights come on and somebody gets it, but is that really as much a joy as anything to you working with special ed?
It really is. I mean, I love it. I truly, truly love it. It's like right now, this year, my coach is about to buy bags of candy, and we're going to be handing it out to a young lady that's in our department, and she's going to go down that department, and she's going to be handing a trick or treat for those kids down there, and I love it. I mean, I get a kick out of that. I love them dressing up and them going trick or treating, and it's just one of those things where it's a joy, bundle of life, because not everybody can play football. Not everybody can play football, but everybody can have a breath of fresh air and seeing everybody smile. So that's what it's about.
Hey, okay, when you went trick-or-treating, what was your go-to? What did you want to see when you opened up that bag?
A bunch of gum. I tell you that, a bunch of gum.
Like double bubble or whatever it was? Yeah.
Yeah, I was big on the Reese's and Milky Way. So, yeah, a bunch of gum and candy. I'll tell you that right there.
Yeah, mine was Three Musketeers. I just that creamy, whatever they call it, the commercial was. All right, so this game is one of what you might still have many to go. Obviously, this is the 10th week of the season, 1 week after this, and then the playoffs begin. Is your team where you are right now with how you play and how you come out of the Duncanville game, injury-free hopefully for both of you, is your team capable of making a really deep run?
I think we are. I really do. And it depends on this game right here. I mean, you kind of hate playing a team like this and a team like Mansfield this late in the season, because hopefully you don't get too banged up going into the playoffs. And that's the bad thing about playing two teams like this, and especially Duncanville right now. But, yes, I think we are. I think our team can do that. I think our team has any better chance than anybody else. And looks like we'll be going to Division II this year for the first time in my history of football. But we do. I think we have the team to do it, and we're looking forward to it.
Duncanville, Desoto, obviously Cedar Hills right now trying to find their way. We know how great they were for a long, long time. And then Waxahachie has stepped up. Mansfield, of course, has great lineage as well. It is, I don't know about top to bottom, but this is not easy, because when Midway was in the district, Midway, of course, ran the district in Central Texas. They've been down, and they're down again this year. But when they got into that district, it was almost as if, and no one would admit this, there's Duncanville, there's Desoto, Duncanville, and maybe even Cedar Hill. Has everyone maybe in the second level gotten better because of how good you guys have been?
I think they have. I think everybody has. I think really, we call this district the district of doom. It's the SEC, and you have to bring it every week. And so that's why it was so important for me to go out and try to schedule a hard preseason schedule to have our kids ready for this, have our players ready for this. Because I'm telling you right now, Waxahachie's improved tremendously. Mansfield has improved tremendously. And you have other teams in that district that has also that is improved, but they're not there with those other guys, but you can still get beat. So it's hard. It really is. And then you're playing Cedar Hill, now you're playing Duncanville, and now you're playing Mansfield. That's brutal. And again, we're just trying to survive it so we can stay healthy for in the playoffs. But no, this district is rough and it's tough. And I think a lot of great coaches are coaching well right now, and that's what it's about, having the great players as well.
I think it would be a reality show just to have a camera on you during the game. I mean, you're excitable, you're passionate, you are just full throttle. Have you ever watched yourself? Actually, someone said, hey, this is what you do during a game. Would you ever want to see that?
No, I probably wouldn't. I love the game so much, and I want our kids to be so successful, and I'm very passionate about it. And I think our kids work hard during the week, so they need to go out there and have fun on Friday nights. And that's my enjoyment. I mean, I go through all the day, and I'm an AD as well, and I deal with all these other sports. And once I step on that field, that's my enjoyment. That's my it's my getaway from everything else. But I truly love our kids, and I just want our kids to be successful, man. And it's not easy.
I have a saying that is, stick your head in a tank of gasoline and light it with a match, because we're about to have like a 3-hour great, let's go, classic energy, whatever show. And I'm not mean that literally, but I think you're kind of like that. Sometimes that can be misunderstood. Do you feel like sometimes people misunderstand you, Claude?
I do. I really do. And I think over time, they're beginning to understand that I'm very passionate and I'm not an arrogant coach, and I'm not a coach that's trying to go off on referees or going off on coaches on other opponents and team. And because I wasn't from the DFW area, I was from Central Texas. I'm from Central Texas. And so when I came up here, yes, I'm very misunderstood. I think a lot of people now know it's about passion and not anything else, and it's about these kids. And I've heard of it. Somebody made a statement that they will win if I get out the way and get out and control my emotions. And it's not that right there. It's just that I'm very passionate about things, and I think that I've done that, a lot of that, and showing people that I'm not an arrogant coach. I just want to win, but I just want our kids to have fun and win. That's what it's about right there.
Claude, thank you very much. I've known you when you were at DeSoto, and even before that, when you were down, as you mentioned, in Central Texas, then Marshall, and back to DeSoto. Thank you very much for your time. Ought to be a hell of a game, huh? Duncan.
Well, I appreciate you. And I appreciate you asking me that question right there, because I think a lot of people do misunderstand me on that part right there. So, Rob, really thank you for asking that. It's always a pleasure being on your show, and it's great talking to you, my friend. And hopefully I can be on there during the playoffs as well.
Yep, you too, buddy. Thanks, Claude. Claude Mathis, head coach at DeSoto. I've known him a long time. And, yeah, I think that there are times, man, he can go off. And then sometimes it's just what takes over your body. I've been misunderstood. And Claude Mathis, and sometimes maybe we're also a little bit over the edge. But, man, how do you ever want to fight against passion? When we come back, DeSoto, we just heard from Claude Mathis. We're going to look at some of the great mascots in Texas high school football. The elite games coming up other than Duncanville, DeSoto. And this is 365 Sports, powered by Smoaky.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
You know, earlier in the show, we mentioned some of the individual performances with Thomas Barr, the field goal that beat Stephenville, Bryson Washington at Franklin in a win for Franklin against another defending state champion, and he ran for 302 yards and 6 touchdowns. Kiefer Sibley at Conley, in a win against Salado, had 426 yards on 14 carries and 7 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns were over 90 yards in that game. That's a game I wanted to highlight and also mention him. That's unbelievable. Easton Paxton at West had touchdowns of 186 yards, 186 yards on an interception and also a catch for a touchdown. Josh Hayes, loved school in Tyler, 14 tackles, 5 tackles for losses, 2 sacks, also 8 quarterback pressures in a win against Riker. And then there's also his teammate Andre Williams ran for 271 yards and 4 scores for Riker in that game. Gerardo Lavin, I'm a part of the Texas, the Bill Ford Tough High School Football Players of the Week and eventually Mr. Texas Football down the stretch from Westwood High School. 4 pancakes, 4 tackles, 1 sack. By the way, it didn't eat 4 pancakes. He might eat 20, but he had 4 pancakes, knocking a guy backwards. Also a tackle for a loss, blocked a punt for a touchdown. But he also graded out in that game 90+% in a win against Huntington. Jace Mosley, quarterback at Hallsville, 266 yards passing, 2 scores, 154 yards rushing, 4 scores, and an overtime win against Pine Tree. And Shelbyville's Benny Smith, 40 carries, 310 yards, 4 scores, and a win against San Augustine. And Clint Thurman, the quarterback at Lindale, with a huge night, 310 yards, 5 touchdowns, averaged 15 yards per carry, threw for 150 yards and a score, and they beat Palestine 57-32. Real quickly now, here's the question of the week for me. Smoky, what is the most unique mascot in Texas high school football history? I played for one of them, and I saw somebody did like a top 15 or 20 best mascots in Texas, most unique. For example, Calhoun is the Sand Crabs, Winters, the Blizzards. I love that one. Frost, the Polar Bears. I love that one. Hamlin Pied Pipers, Booker T. Washington, the Pegasus, Brazosport, the Exporters, and also the Ricebirds of El Campo. There's some other ones, but I played at Randolph High School on Randolph Air Force Base, Universal City, Randolph. A great run under Bob Mickler, the former head coach who passed away a few years back. I love the man. Love the man. He could tell and say anything to me. I never took it personally. I was never overly sensitive. He would call me a moron. And a lot of times I absolutely, I was. I loved it. Some people, you get oversensitive. I needed somebody to chew on me. But I played at Randolph High School, the Rohawks, and I saw somebody put together a list of what does that mean? When they first opened the school back in the early 60s, they had a vote. What do you want the mascot to be? I mean, like right now, the most common name, probably the Lions, the Bears, the Eagles, whoever. It's interesting, the Eagles would be one of the most common. It's, I think, the most common mascot name in the state of Texas with the Cowboys. I don't know if anyone's called themselves the Cowboys, but that's part of the history. Lions, Tigers, Cougars, Bears, whatever. But we were the Rohawks, and I wasn't a part of the original class. I'm not that old. But they voted, and it was a 50-50 split on Rockets, because it's an Air Force base, and Hawks because of whatever. So they combined the 2 names to become the Rohawks. I played for Randolph. I love that name. A lot of people don't understand that name. It's a pride there. They're pretty good this year, but they lost some key players and lost a game a couple of weeks ago to Blanco, 10-7. But they were really, really good. And we featured Randolph and Cole, 2 military bases, Army and Air Force games in that history last year on our podcast. All right, here's my conversation with Duncanville head football coach Reggie Samples.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Here's a coach that I've gotten to know really over the last 6 or 7 years when he arrived in Duncanville and what he's done there, but also what he has done at Skyline and, of course, at Dallas Lincoln as well. Reggie Samples, one of the all-time winningest coaches in Texas high school football history, Duncanville and Desoto. Reggie, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. What does, when I mention Duncanville and Desoto, what does that mean to you?
It's a rivalry. It's a game that's going to decide our district championship. And it means a lot because, you know, we really want to get ready for the playoffs. And we know that these are the type of games that you're going to have to play to really decide where your team is going into the playoffs.
Yeah, it does, Tess. And Claude told us earlier that this is the kind of game you want to play this game. And then again, late in the year, it's such a rivalry and 2 great teams and great players that you almost like worry about getting beat up a little bit. But you guys usually are the ones that are the hammer. You've had a great run again this year. Your thoughts about who you are right now as a football team?
Well, I think we're developing and getting better every week. We have a young quarterback that's a sophomore that we've really invested a lot in lately because I started towards ACL the first game of the year. So we're excited because we think we're really at a point where we're finna, hit a peak and get going on a good roll.
You know, you guys have been able to win everything you've played. I know you've had a couple of weeks when no one wanted to play you, and you had to. Is it hard for you to find games? It's my question. I know you're in a district that's really pretty good, but is it hard sometimes for you to find non-district games?
Without a doubt. One of the most frustrating parts of being a coach at Duncanville is going to the realignment meeting and sitting and watching all those posts on the board saying, need this week, need that week. And then when you put your name up there, you don't get any calls.
That's because you're too successful, man.
Well, but you want to play. You need to, to keep the game. And, it's just, it's one of those frustrating things, I tell you.
All right. So you have been very successful, over 300 wins in all the things you've done. You and I have talked about that before, even last year. So were you ever in the position where you were trying to be a certain program and trying to build it? Maybe, I don't know if it was early at Lincoln or where, and you saw someone had an open week and you're like, man, I don't know if we want to bite that off, or is that something you went, no, let's go. Let's play somebody. We got to play the best teams.
Well, different times at different moments. Mm-hmm. I can't say I've never done that. Sometimes you have to be selective. If I'm about to go into district play, I'm not going to take a hammer and get beat up going into district. Then on the other hand, if it fits right, if it's at the beginning of the year when we really need a game and I have some time to regroup the kids, you always want a high level of competition. 2 years ago, Mater Dei beat our brains out.
Yep.
But after that game, it really set a precedent for our kids. And I told them, we can take this game and we probably won't lose another one. And that's exactly what happened until the last game of the year.
Yeah, no, I remember that game. It's like earlier this year, and in fact, DeSoto played St. Francis out of Maryland, got beat up pretty badly, and you've been in that position. There is this kind of a turf war when it comes to America, when it comes to high school football. We know there are teams around the country that are really good at your level. But is in the state of Texas deeper with elite teams, not just maybe a handful that can maybe pick and choose if they want to win? Florida beats Texas, or Texas beats Ohio, or Pennsylvania beats California, vice versa. Is it still that Texas is much deeper?
Well, I think so. And the reason I think so is because, when you start talking about teams outside of Texas that are highly ranked, very few of them are public schools. Most of them are private schools, and they're able to pick and select the talent that they have. I'm just so proud of the competition in Texas because we end up being elite and good teams, and we only use the kids that are eligible in our attendance zone.
When that district you have with DeSoto, Duncanville, Cedar Hill, we know they had a great run, and they're a little bit down right now. When Midway came into that district, they had been fantastic, and you had played them back in non-district a couple of times when you first arrived at Duncanville. They were really, really good with Terry Gamble and then Jeff Hume, and then they got into that district and had no chance. Do you think, though, Waxahachie, Mansfield seems to have turned the corner back to where they were before? Are others around the district getting better because of how good you are and DeSoto is?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with us. I think the coaches are just doing a great job. They've got some guys in there that know what's going on. Their kids believe in what the coach is trying to do. And I've watched those schools develop, and I just attach it to great coaching and great coaching staffs, and they're doing the right thing with their kids.
I know there's that carrot out there of a state championship, and a lot of people get consumed with that. You've told me before it's much bigger than that, and if that day comes, that would be wonderful, and I'd love it. I'll celebrate for you. Have you set such a standard that it's almost impossible to reach, though?
No. Every year, that's my goal. And I'd be lying if I sit here and told you that, that's not important. It's very important. But, you also have to look at the journey and the hard work. And, sometimes people look at schools like DeSoto and Duncanville and say, oh, they have this and they have that. But it's the same type of, you have the trials and tribulations and putting things together and trying to make schemes work as anybody else. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done to be able to get to the level that we've been in the last few years.
Is it harder to coach these days or not?
It's harder. Oh, man, let me tell you something. These new NCAA rules are really making it hard on high school coaches. Because, you know it. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You just want me to say it. And the bottom line is, when a kid knows that there's some pay down the line for him being a big-time player, it makes it very hard for him to really adapt and listen and conform to what we're trying to tell him in high school. Because you got to understand, it's not just the NIL, it's all of the promises and all of the other things that are surrounding what's being told to them that actually gets them to buy in.
I even think now you're seeing college coaches, you've seen the programs who have been very heavy in the NIL, even the great names like Nick Saban, or what you've seen at what's going on at A&M. Don't you think that that's now made it even more difficult because guys have got money by the time they get to campus?
Exactly. And so, you got to understand, it makes the kid turn around and look and say, I have this in my future. Why do I need to listen to you here at the high school?
Reggie Samples, head football coach at Duncanville, with us on 365 Sports, powered by Smoaky.com, our statewide podcast. So I had a coach that's been with you tell me that, do you train German Shepherds?
No, I raise them. I don't have time
to
train them. My dogs don't sit and they kind of do whatever they want. But I've always been a German Shepherd fan. I've always had German Shepherds. I live out in a rural area. I have about an acre and a half behind my house. I've got foxes and everything going through my. Well, I have to have those big dogs as a kind of deterrent for some of the varmints that go around my house.
They're like probably athletes, right? They don't listen to you. Or do they? Do they actually know who the boss is?
Yes. It's funny you asked that. Sometime during the season, I normally have a routine that I walk my male. He's about 100 pounds. And when I don't walk him, if I open the gate and let him out, he punishes me by just taking off and going through the neighborhood. And it gets crazy sometimes.
My father was a Naval Academy graduate, Reggie. You'll love this. But he then moved into the Air Force, so he didn't have to spend 6 months or a year on an aircraft carrier because he wanted to be so much a part of the family, and we always appreciated that. He actually was at times a flight, like he was on the flight line, and he had German Shepherds. And I asked him one time, I said, Dad, you're around, this is when I was younger, you're around German Shepherds. Why would we not want to have one of those? Because we would have like maybe a border collie or something like Lhasa Apsos, the little tiny ones that act like they're fierce. And he told me, he goes, I see them when they are in a mood where we have them for a reason. And that's awesome that you raise them. And that's pretty cool. That's a beautiful, that's a gorgeous dog, isn't it?
Oh, I love them. And they're very intelligent. I tell people all the time, they can come to my house and walk around with me and my dog never moves. But then if you come on your own and you're not with me or my wife, they act like they want to tear out of the enclosure that they have them in. They're very protected. And that's what
Absolutely. What is your favorite steak?
Oh, without a doubt, bone-in ribeye.
There you go. Absolutely. Do you cook your own, or do you go out to various steakhouses in the Dallas area?
Both. I am a barbecue champion, just like a football champion. But I am, I go out to the steakhouses. That's my number one thing. My wife and I, we go out and do the fine dining thing. I have to do it to stay married.
Now, if you're prepping to, like, let's just say you're cooking one for you or for a half a dozen people, whatever. Is there a special way you prep your bone-in ribeye, or is it just, what are the seasoning? What do you do?
Well, you know what? I'm of that notion of the meat in itself is what draws you to it. So I don't really do a lot of doctoring. I use salt and pepper. And then, I have one of those old-fashioned grills, and my grill has the flavor in it. So as soon as I light it up, it's done.
I love bone-in ribeyes. I have a company that's a sponsor, Waco Custom Marketplace here, and I get them cut about that thick, maybe an inch and a quarter, inch and a half. And I put salt, and I'll throw some pepper on there now. But that edge around the ribeye steak, that part that's got a little fat in it, oh, my God, I don't know if there's anything better than that. I had somebody, Judd Thrash, by the way, told me about you and steaks as well. He also told me this, Reggie, that you've taught him an incredible amount since, of course, when he arrived at Duncanville. He was at McGregor. You've taught him a lot. You've also taught him how to make other coaches accountable. You've also taught him about how to become a coach and maybe one day run a program on any of your assistant coaches. Isn't that part of passing the torch down to others along the way to keep the history alive?
Oh, yeah. And I take pride in that because I think that's part of being a leader at anything that you do. Because you know that you and I, we're not going to be sitting in our desks forever. And the best thing that we can do is pass on the experiences that we've had, some of them that's made us good and some of them that's not so good. But at the end of the day, if I can help someone be a better coach, a better person, I think that's what it's all about.
You've been around, and I've been around. It's not, we're both kind of the old timers, so to speak, but I feel like I'm younger than ever before. Do you sometimes feel that way just because of the passion you have for coaching and kids?
Without a doubt. I tell you what, and it's to a point now that my big thing in life, and I would recommend it to you, is that I have now started to study good health. I mean, I'm working out 3 times a week, lifting weights, I've changed my diet, I've cut back on the alcohol, eat fruit every day. It's really changed my whole life.
Good for you, because I, at one time, weighed 282.5 pounds, and now I've been in that 190 range for about 5 or so years. So, yeah, and it does. It's not just you can't out-exercise your diet, as I was told by my trainer. You cannot out-exercise. You could exercise every day, but if you're not eating all the good stuff, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy a bone-in ribeye or something else along the way. When I say Claude Mathis, what do you think about?
Very competitive, energetic, and he's a guy that's going to always have a good team and a good program.
And you guys play each other. It should be one heck of a game. Reggie, I appreciate you. Always appreciate the time you've given me when I've asked. We appreciate you. Good luck on Friday night, and have a great weekend. And
thanks for having me. You know you're my guy.
No, you got a lot of guys, right?
No, but you're one of my favorites. I mean, I just like the way you approach it. My thing is, it's not always all about football. And whenever I talk to you, you know, you also go into things like ribeyes and German shepherds. And that's what I'm about. It's not just all about football for me. I have some other things that I love, and you seem to always bring that up.
Hey, man, I love you, Reggie. Thanks for your time. Good luck this weekend. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. You take care now.
Reggie Samples, Duncanville and Desoto on Friday night. This is the statewide high school football podcast with 365 Sports and Smoaky.com.
Yeah! Are y'all ready? What? Yeah! Y'all ready to play some football? If you wanna look again and let me know. I'm about to break this thing up. If you wanna look again and let me know. I'm about to break this thing up. If you want some, come get some.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
On the screen right now, you see 5 names, college football running backs. And 3 of those names, I covered them in high school, and one of them I cover now, for any reason for talent, but Bijan Robinson had a huge game against Oklahoma State. Texas couldn't hold the lead. Bijan Robinson again, 140 yards. These are the best college rushing yards last week during college football season, connected to Texas. He played in Arizona high school, but of course at U2. Jaden Stewart, Lamar, 141 yards. He is from Pearland, Dawson High School. Then you go to the next one, Kendry Miller. This kid is tough as nails. He played at a 2A school, little tiny Mount Enterprise. He and DeMarcado at TCU, and plus Duggan who can run it. This kid is tough as nails. Had a huge game in the big comeback win as TCU remains unbeaten, ranked in the top 10 in the country. Richard Reese at Baylor from Belleville High School, 186 yards, career high, and they needed every single inch as they blew a 28-3 lead. They didn't blow the lead, but they were close to it. They needed a big drive at the end of the game. Richard Reese had chunks of yardage and then scored the touchdown to put the game away against Kansas out of Belleville. And then Keaton Dudek. I covered that China Spring team when they made the great run to the semifinals, lost to Carthage in 4 overtimes. Keaton Dudek, 306 yards. And what a run for him. And again, a great week for Keaton Dudek, and also appreciate those names. Now, here are the elite games of the week, just to touch on a handful of them. And we have focused, of course, on one of them, Duncanville DeSoto. North Shore keeps rolling along against Atascocita, who's been really good. And so put that back up again, if you don't mind, Jacob. The top 10 games, there's North Shore and Atascocita. There's a great game in 6-man, that May and Jonesboro game. That ought to be interesting. There's that Duncanville game. Franklin coming off the win against Loretta, 2 defending state champions, another one with that lineage. And Rick Rhodes is back there, and they're getting better. Franklin can run the ball with Bryson Washington and company. We'll see. That could be a high-scoring game. A little bit down to the next page of that list, South Lake Carroll and Byron Nelson. This is probably still South Lake Carroll, but Byron Nelson is really good. Munster and Collinsville is a part of that game. Munster is 4-4, but actually favored against Collinsville. Whitesboro and Paradise. There's Manville. I just like that name, what Manville's done, 6-2 against Fulshire. They're the third, that at the bottom, Prosper and Allen. Allen got smoked by Geyer. Prosper beat them last year. Prosper ended their long district winning streak a year ago. Heck of a game. Man, you wonder about what's going on with Allen, and right now in that game, Prosper is a slight favorite. The third page of the top 30 games of the year, Wimberley is always a heck of a game against Lago Vista. Wimberley's about a 2-touchdown favorite. There's Tidehaven and Bowling, both 6-2. Tidehaven a slight favorite. Tascosa out of Amarillo. That's a good football team, and so is Cooper. Basically a pick'em game right there. And then you see the other ones, Dangerfield and Wascom. Wascom, of course, they lost Whitney Keeling to Tatum. Not quite the same. Dangerfield explosive with Chase Johnson, Aaron Hampton, among others. So there's some of the games. And Mason, I mentioned mascots, the Punchers. I love that name. They play Stockdale this week. Those are the 30 games. You can go on my website, Smoaky.com, up until I think noon on Thursday. You can pick the games, put your name and email in there, pick the 30 games. Whoever has the best record each week wins a $25 gift certificate to Bubba's 33, wherever they are located. I know there's one in Longview. I know there's obviously one on I-35 in Waco. Thank you to all of our incredible sponsors. Thanks to our guests today, Reggie Samples and Claude Mathis. Thanks to Jacob Wilson behind the scenes for what he does. And thank you for joining us each week. This is the statewide high school football podcast powered by 365 Sports and Smoaky.com. I'm David Smoak. Have a great week 10 of the Texas high school football season. Thank you. Battle in the gun with Hill to his right. Play action to the right. Steps up, throws over the middle. He's got Thornton. Caught it! Junior Thornton. Split 6. Touchdown. Midway.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Hill, right side, finds a seam. Hill, 20. Hill, 10. Hill, touchdown. Midway, no flags. Midway takes the lead by more than one score. And how about the Big Uglies inside?